Hello everyone and welcome to the Vortex, where lies and falsehoods are trapped and exposed. I'm Michael Voris. There's an old saying in politics, pretty simple actually, elections have consequences. So do moral choices, good and bad consequences. In fact, moral choices and elections are intimately tied together, although a morally bankrupt media would have you believe differently. Why else would they distinguish between economic questions, foreign policy questions, and social issues questions when doing exit polling, for example? Yo, media buddies, shout out to you. Every question in an election is a moral question, a social issues question. That's why society goes and votes. It wasn't until they got their clocks cleaned a few years ago that Democrats started harping on this theme. The reason lefties have sought to separate social issues and economic and foreign policy is that underneath the term social issues is a quiet tip of the hat to values, which of course leads to morality, which leads to religion, which leads straight back to God, and lefties don't like God. They want to be their own gods and refuse to acknowledge the God. Why? Because they don't like morality, or better said, they don't like having to live moral lives according to rules that they didn't write. Fiercely independent, this crowd. They want to be able to have sex with no consequences. They want to be able to kill the unborn child if they are, in the words of their messiah, Barack Obama, punished with a baby. But they don't want to admit this disgusting consequence of sexual immorality, so they do what every person who has dedicated their life to immorality does. They seek refuge in numbers. They insist everyone does it, from cheating on their spouses, to shacking up, to using artificial contraception, to aborting their babies. And certainly many people do, but not everyone. In fact, a good number of people despise immorality, even when they occasionally succumb to it themselves. The resultant feeling is not glory from having joined the masses of other immoral types, but the more appropriate response of shame and guilt and a desire to get back on track. It's called redemption, something the leftists who have taken over the Democratic Party leadership know absolutely nothing about. For 40 years, these moral cowards have exerted such control over the mainstream media, the educational system, the courts, that they have succeeded in virtually destroying logic and critical thought among tens of millions of voters. They have diverted hundreds of billions of tax dollars over decades into propagandist programs in the nation's public school system, where they have advanced a decidedly immoral anti-God agenda. They have poured trash and filth into the minds of tens of millions of youth, and now those first youths are adults with nary a clue of what they do not know because no one ever told them. Evil-minded elitists like Barack Obama preach tolerance and acceptance, but try challenging them on their demonic dogmas of death and stand back as the gates of hell fling itself open. During the Clinton years, once the biggest of his sexual escapades became well known, after of course he denied it, obstructed justice, perjured himself, and went on national television to lie about it, his allies in the army of immorality guffawed and yawned. It's just sex. What's the big deal? Who cares? There are more important issues like poverty, welfare, social justice, the death penalty. And that's just the problem. That's how the promoters of immorality see things. Personal morality is never a big deal, unless of course it might cost you votes. What they fail to understand is a lack of personal morality is directly responsible for collective immorality. Immoral, irreligious leaders have taken hundreds of millions of Americans down a garden path of excuse-making for immoral choices. The collective weight of those individual choices has so blinded a nation, or at least enough of a nation, that it now stands poised to elect a flim-flam fraud to the highest office in the land. Elections not only have consequences, they also reflect the soul of a nation. If Obama is the next U.S. president, the ascendancy of immorality will have come full circle. When a nation swoons and fawns over a candidate who openly professes objective immorality and intrinsic evil as public policy, you know the rot is grassroots. As the saying goes, before kingdoms change, men must change. But the change must be one embracing morality, not a furthering of immorality. Come November, remember Obama, soft on terrorists, but tough on fetuses. I'm Michael Voris.